Good afternoon and welcome to Lunchtime series, proudly powered by leadershipbydesign.co, where we aim to add value to people's lives. You can listen to us live every Wednesday and Thursday at lunchtime on ebuzzradio.com, where we talk everything leadership, coaching, and marketing. And you can catch the Lunchtime series on all your major podcast channels today. In our marketing and leadership segment today, we've got our marketing and communications expert and co-host, Craig Page Lee. Craig, how you doing?
Kevin, I'm great, thank you. Yeah, gosh, good to be chatting again after the week has just flown by. It feels like we spoke 2 days ago.
Yeah, I was actually speaking to someone from Cape Town yesterday, and they were saying that the weekend was raining the whole weekend, and like the weather. She said that she feels like the weather's changed in Cape Town as well. And I'm going, we've had a few of our own like colds in the
Yeah,
last
snow
couple
and things like that. Yeah,
It's crazy.
unreal.
So, Craig, I mean, to kick it off today, don't you want to give us a bit of a summary of what we spoke about last week? Because I know the second part of we sort of had a second part on our focus on social media trends. What are the reminders
Absolutely.
that you can share with
Kevin,
us?
thanks. Yeah, so as you stated, we looked at the past 2 weeks and two different approaches to social media trends. We covered two of the GEWR reports, one focusing on social media behind the scenes 2023, and the second, Every Agency's Guide to Social Media, which is what I'm going to reference for our key reminder points from last week. So the second report covers three broad concepts, namely challenges in new social scene and how to turn them into opportunities, insight-led channel planning, and insight-led content strategy to help maximize ROI. So the key takeaway is really from point one, which looks at the challenges in the new social scene. And the four challenges that are being presented are referenced, each looking at the context of turning those challenges into opportunities. And we note the following from these four challenges. Challenge one being the attention economy. So sluggish growth suggests time online has plateaued, with time and social declining in 36 of the 48 global markets reviewed since Q1 2022. And yeah, the reality here is any brand is up against 1,000 other brands and bots fighting for people's attention. The opportunity here is to do more with less. So you only need to know two things to win and keep customers' attention. Firstly, where, and secondly, how they're spending their time on social media. Focus your marketing efforts on what they want, and you'll cut through the noise in half the time. Challenge two is the rise of AI. So generative AI like ChatGPT is useful for marketers, but consumers' opinions are quite mixed, with 68% of ChatGPT users noting that they would use it over a search engine for queries, while on the other side, 43% don't think it's a reliable tool that they can use consistently. And as I note here, yet, because I think that will change. The opportunity, however, is to speed up ideation, and AI is definitely changing the world as we know it. So for brands, get on board or get left behind. From pitch prep to strategic content planning, use the power of AI to gather data and get creative juices flowing in half the time. Challenge three is about inclusive marketing. Here we look at diversity, equity, inclusion as a growing social issue, with questions raised around representation in ads. Pay attention, audiences are unlikely to engage with or trust brands who they don't feel represent them. The opportunity for brands here is building trust with engaging content. So many brands with Gen Z tunnel vision are letting other valuable audiences slip through the net. Be open-minded and validate your target audience. And yeah, wouldn't it be nice to uncover market opportunities that you didn't know existed in these audiences? And the final challenge is the cookieless future. So relying heavily on social platform data to target users, track trends, and customer client strategies, it's time to rethink. So in parallel with the cookie withdrawal, growing online privacy concerns also mean more brands are being pushed out of the access. The opportunity here is get answers firsthand. So with tracking tools, how do you know what your consumers want? Just ask. The window into their minds, first-party audience research gives you an edge over any of your competitors, and these tools will help you lead the conversion on social media. Kevin, those are the reminder points from last week's chat.
Fantastic. Thank you, Craig. So, guys, if you want to catch that episode of the Lunchtime Marketing Series, Go and check it out at the Lunchtime series on YouTube, or you can check it out on all your major podcast channels today. Greg, so what was the interesting topic we're going to be we're tackling today?
Yeah, Kevin, so I want to stay with the theme of marketing that we've covered in the last sort of 3-4 weeks, and want to discuss the findings of another interesting report that I came across a few weeks back. And the report is titled 2023 Digital Marketing Trends. It was published by Brandwatch, and Brandwatch is really coming to the fore from an awareness point of view, some really good posts on LinkedIn and things like that. And, the content is an enabler for all agencies and social media, at least folk who want to play in the space of digital media, really brings simple tools and methodologies. And their key report covers 10 digital marketing trends that are based on the amount of content covered in the report. And I think that we may have to cover all of the trends over the 2 weeks, because these 10 trends are quite comprehensive. And based on today, I think we're only going to get through 5. But I just want to list the trends. And it's really great to see that this report tackles it from a digital trend point of view, and obviously within that there are some trends that go back to social media, and there's some nice parallels and overlap here. So trend 1 is an interesting one. It says scrappy content is thriving, and this is going to be quite interesting when we define it. Trend 2 is the coming of age of influencer marketing. Trend 3 is it's totally in to be ethical. I like that. Trend 4 is a cookieless future. Trend 5 is brands tackle social media fatigue. These last 2 points really pairing nicely with the report of last week. Trend 6 is communities are on the rise. Trend 7 is augmented reality as the preferred way to shop. Trend 8 is metaverse sets a new level of gamification. Trend 9 is brands continue to experiment with emerging technologies. Great to see that. And trend 10 is multi-format content, which is really important. But what's great about the report, Kevin, that there's a tips for marketers section after each of the trends, and these 3 tips per trend are provided for marketers to consider in their digital marketing strategies, and helps with some of the implementation activities.
Craig, what's interesting about as we go through some of these trends, and as I'm listening and as I'm seeing how the TikTok, specifically that platform, people are really voyeuristic. You're starting to, and that's why when you start with scrappy content, what I've realized is, I go through TikTok sometimes, and you just have people just talking directly at the screen, and they're not saying anything specific. They're just online talking to the screen. It's the weirdest thing and somehow there's this I don't know how we psychologically find ourselves bound to the person we're talking to, but it's the strangest thing, and social media in itself, I think TikTok is a good way of measuring sort of what's happening in the world's way of behaving around social media. So all of these topics are really going to be quite interesting to unpack. So, to start off with it, Craig, what can you share with us on the 5 trends, the first 5 trends that we have here?
Okay, so I want to reference some content from the opening. There's some really great content in the few opening paragraphs, Kevin, and 2 of them I want to reference here. And the one opens with the following. As marketers, we're constantly trying to discover new ways to drive connections and build a following for our brands through the power of emerging digital technologies. And as you referenced, TikTok being one of those. Whether that's through influencer partnerships, the development of a metaverse strategy, or tapping into the NFT craze, the brand building opportunities are all around us. While some of these trends have existed in one form or another for a while, none of them have held more power than they do today, and will in 2023. For years, we've talked about influencer marketing, the rise of communities, and augmented reality. But much like the internet today is vastly different from the clunky modem-based 90s version, these trends are now peaking, and we're actually seeing new trends emerge within these trends. And this is really where you get to see the subset trends, Kevin. And we're going to start with trend 1 being scrappy content is thriving and teaches us the following. So the COVID pandemic lockdown obviously had a direct impact on producing professional footage for brands, Kevin. And the emergence of these unpolished raw content pieces became a trend, with brands continuing to push the limits even to this day in this regard. And this was predominantly evident on social media, but some brands have actually experimented further, with the likes of Coinbase using a simple QR code bouncing around the screen during their ad for the Super Bowl last year. And Kevin, you may well know that this became really topical, and the ad generated more than 79,000 mentions during the game. The report notes that unpolished content isn't going away at all. In reality, it's still not even reached its peak in popularity. So with the ever decreasing marketing budgets, this format and approach is obviously something that's going to grow, and could even be seen as a blessing in disguise for cash-strapped content teams. An important statement on this point is that it's something that B2C brands can actually experiment with as well, but the trend really raises questions for organizations who value their polished aesthetic or worry about losing their serious reputation. And the tip here for marketers is that scrappy content isn't bad content, Kevin. The approach can enable social media managers to take advantage of trends quickly, to gather extensive engagement, all while showcasing the company's culture and even a sense of humor, which is also great for attracting employees. Tip 2 is B2B brands and agencies shouldn't feel left out, as this kind of content is not just for consumer-facing fun brands. Behind the scenes or day in the life of content could be a good place to start. And thinking about the pain points you're trying to solve could also really help generate some ideas. And tip 3 is let your imagination run wild. Inspiration can strike everywhere, and this unpolished form and approach to content means marketers can operate unrestricted. Using the assets and products you already have, there are no limits to how you can bring them to life. So yeah, really great point that, Kevin.
You know what's interesting about the scrappy content, Craig? I follow this. She's called Grandma Great, and what she does on every time she starts her TikTok, she starts it with "Wait, don't go," and every time she does that, I stop and I listen.
That's great.
And then she's just grandma giving like advice on life and love and stuff. But it's so interesting that key phrases like that in social media right now, it just grabs people's attention. But also people, you start steering into areas where you just find the stuff that's interesting to you, and it really doesn't matter what the hell people are putting out there. People are just, it doesn't mean like they don't care if it's edited, they don't care if it's just just put it out there and put it out there so that people can know who you are and what you think and how you say it and more about you. It's almost like having an opportunity to get to know people a little bit better. And I think that inside, like I can be inside Kevin's house right now. So like, that kind of
thing, and that sort of barriers down kind of approach. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what the scrappy content allows for. It allows you to see the inside of someone's life. And I think that's why it's so popular.
Yeah, that's a great concept, and in the moment, the reality is told, and I like that for the workplace as well, as it says in terms of the B2B opportunities, showcasing what is happening in a business, and really getting to demonstrate how your business can solve a pain point through the proof of this visual association and demonstration of resolution of that pain point.
I'm still like, I would love to, like, just to on this point, I would love to see inside the life and the behind the scenes of someone's life, like the CEO of Discovery Health, or the CEO of Momentum, or the CEO of a really big corporate that actually has the guts to sort of put it out there. Because I think people like that would really make a massive impact on their brand and on, the workings of a brand, if they allow people a little bit more closeness. And there are some people that do it, but not very many.
Imagine if Elon Musk did. That would be quite telling, eh?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, moving to trend two, the coming of age of influencer marketing, and yeah, this has been coming for a while because we've seen evolutions of influencer marketing, but brands really need to adapt to stay ahead as the way influencer marketing is definitely evolving, Kevin. It isn't a new concept, but the way that brands actually leverage influencers is definitely changing. So whether it's using smaller influencers to work on large, whether it's using smaller influencers or leveraging the scale and capacity of multi-influencer campaigns, influencer marketing is definitely a great way to engage with their audiences. Interestingly, though, in 2022, global influencer market size was 16.4 billion US dollars, Kevin. 4 times the size of TikTok's advertising revenue. Take note. And it's obvious that the brands who aren't leveraging influencer marketing are definitely getting left behind. The report also notes that in 2023, we're seeing actually quite a widening difference between content creators and influencers. And I think this is important and good for the delineation between the two. They're not mutually exclusive terms. In the past, all content creators could have been deemed as influencers and vice versa. However, that has shifted, with the term influencer being developed to describe individuals with a large following who are typically more expensive to work with and have a sort of pre-established platform, whereas content creators, on the other hand, actually work slightly differently. They are smaller scale micro influencers. They're producing much higher quality influencer style content without the large fees attached. And virtual influencers are also an interesting concept here, Kevin. The virtual influencer is exactly as it says, an artificial generated fictional social media character created by companies or individuals with an eye for influencing, and these virtual influencers are definitely growing in popularity. A lot of machine learning, AI capability at the back end. The tips for marketers around this is number one, stay on top of influencer trends. The influencer space is maturing in 2023, and we can expect a variety of new influencer trends to surface. Utilize influencers for marketing purposes is nothing new, but the way in which brands are doing this keeps changing. Keep an eye on the variety of influencers on social so that you can stay ahead of the curve, and actually that you can pair with the right influencer for your brand. Utilize content creators. The gap between influencers and content creators is growing. Marketers should utilize both of them in different ways to maximize their reach on social media. And tip three, don't ignore virtual influencers. Virtual influencers are receiving higher engagement rates than people, really, and make use of their space in the metaverse as well as the social media presence. This is good for brands wanting to expand their digital trends and reach, Kevin.
Craig, I think from someone who's on relatively a lot of social media, I think being a digital influencer, I mean, I'm still waiting for some. I don't know of anyone who's actively doing it, but I'm still waiting for someone who's using that influence ability to be able to influence the narrative of how people look after the planet and how people, encourage people to be better. I mean, there are some people that are, that have really good podcasts and snippets of stuff that could actually influence. But I think, big brands and big influencers that can, instead of just, showcasing a pair of sneakers or a brand, for example, to maybe put the influence behind how can we use the platform we have, but to influence in a way that really impacts the planet. Because if you have, like Taylor Swift, she has 270 million people on her Instagram or something crazy. She has a wonderful opportunity to change the narrative or to change minds. And I think I'm waiting for someone to do that at a proper, beautiful, I mean, the next topic here is ethical, so I'm looking at an ethical scale.
So what's really interesting, and it's great to hear you mention that, Kevin. So yesterday, I came across a really interesting read where Coldplay has published their own sustainability report. Coldplay, the band.
Yeah.
Okay. And basically what they've done is they've had a look at different ways that they can actually reduce their carbon footprints. And as we know, bands make their money from tours around the world, and these tours include planes, trains, automobiles, big boxes, and a lot of technology and logistics. And inevitably, all of those things come with big carbon footprints. But they really have worked hard to reduce that around the way they're planning their tours and delivering the tours. So they've produced 47% less CO2 emissions than their previous stadium tours from 2016 to 2017, based on the 2022 tour.
That's incredible.
It's absolutely incredible how they're able to do that. So what I'm doing is I'm going to be looking at that as a key reference point, and pick up some other effective brands that are really working hard in the space and bring that into our conversation next week. But I thought it was a fascinating report, because who the hell would have thought that a band would be producing that sustainability report?
But again, again, I say Taylor Swift because she fills a stadium with 110,000 people. Can you imagine every time she does that, and she's aware of what the carbon footprint is? You think of any global sensation in the world, like Jennifer Lopez. If all of them started actually doing this and creating a narrative of being more cognizant of what they and consciously, actively, put that out there, so that they're building an awareness, but they're also speaking about it and putting it out into the audience. It makes people will follow that. People will follow people who are famously doing it.
Great platform.
So I love it.
Yeah, brilliant. Moving to trend 3, it's totally in to be ethical. According to Investopedia, companies that lay the frame.
Let's be honest, right? It's about time.
Absolutely. So according to Investopedia, companies that actually lay the framework for business ethics in all facets of the operation are more likely to become and remain more profitable than their counterparts who don't value ethics. And company, here's a new one. Companies on Ethisphere's list of the world's most ethical companies consistently outperform the competitive companies by around 7%, Kevin. So here in itself is another measure, the Ethisphere list of the world's most ethical companies. So we'll bring that into that whole conversation. So from sustainability, inclusivity, building your business on ethical foundations is key to improving a brand's relationship with customers, with their employees, and obviously with their business partners. And this doesn't stop at profits. Employees tend to remain loyal to and perform much more effectively for a company with high standards of ethics. In 2022, a study of 850 companies, 80% stated that they planned to increase their investment in sustainability. And the Gemini report of the same year reported that 77% of consumer products and retail organizations found that sustainability projects leads to increase in customer loyalty. And obviously more and more customers are valuing sustainability and green initiatives from the brands they buy from, and businesses face losing customers if they don't prioritize sustainability, a point we've picked up on more than once in the past, Kevin. Another key point here is to understand the concept of inclusive marketing, where consumers want to see themselves in the brands they buy from, and companies need to adjust their marketing efforts to appeal much more to these diverse demographics. Another report, the 2022 Nielsen report, found that 59% of Black viewers are more likely to buy from brands that actually feature someone of their identity group in advertisements. And Twitter found that the LGBTQ plus community are loyal and influential advocates for brands that resonate with them, meaning that brands really need to speak up and be authentic in their support for this community. And 72% of Gen Z said they would consider brands' political leanings before making a purchase. Brands, therefore, will need to be actively inclusive in their marketing efforts, Kevin, and that's obviously across all digital platforms. By doing this, brands can maximize their reach to potential customers on social media. The 3 tips here is that Tip one, show off your brand across social media. Brands that share ethical practices across their digital presence will definitely see increased benefits, from wider community base to increased sales. Statistically, these brands are more likely to benefit from their unethical counterparts. Strong statement. Improve inclusive marketing efforts. Try to keep customers in mind when planning your digital marketing campaigns, from casting different genders to expanding your product range to encompassing larger demographic. Inclusive marketing benefits everyone involved. And the last point here, or tip here, is don't be scared about evolving. Don't be afraid to change your marketing efforts to be more inclusive. As long as you do your research and implement your company's values in your marketing, your audiences will respond well. An important point here, as long as you do your research. And I think if you look at the Anheuser, AB InBev, Budweiser campaign, was the marketing research done effectively? Maybe not, because look at the backlash on that and the direct negative effect that campaign had on the bottom line.
Craig, you know what I love about this, Craig, is it speaks about inclusive marketing. And again, we've had inclusivity as a conversation before, but it's interesting. I've been watching. I pay attention to what's being showcased as programs and conversation pieces and series topics, and slowly but surely there's an evolution of what's being shown on television, for example. And they're really tapping into the cross-pollination of what makes people, or what race is really shown to the world. And the recent Oscar winners this year were all, most of them were not white. They were Asian and non-white people, so which was quite fantastic to see that it's actively happening in the world. And I think just the start where ethics it's totally in to be ethical. I think that's like it's a beautiful standard to start with, right? When you kind of go, okay, whatever we're putting out there, ethics is one of the things that we're going to start with at the forefront of when we put it out. Yeah. Because I think that's going to make the difference to start changing the narrative. And as it is, it's really cool to be able to. And I often watch talk shows and stuff to kind of get ideas of what people are talking about. And ethics and inclusivity is an unbelievably important conversation. Like I'm still waiting for Marvel to give us a gay superhero. Like the day that happens, then we know we've crossed a few barriers, right?
Brilliant. Kevin, moving to trend 4, a cookieless future. We know that cookies are used to gather data and track user journeys, and that it helps marketers find out critical information about their customer base. But with the phasing out of these third-party cookies, ad tracking is definitely becoming quite difficult. The key challenge remains in how marketers actually implement new ways to gather this critical data in this cookieless future. And the report notes that 41% believe that their biggest challenge is from Google's cookie, at least the biggest challenge from Google's cookie change will be the inability to track the right data. Take note, the right data. And this unfortunately could lead to the rebalance of digital ad spending to include more brand building and less over targeting in 2023. And in a way, I think that's actually great, because I know a year plus ago, we spoke about the impact of a cookieless world on advertising, and how the instantaneousness of digital measurement in a way has actually gone against the grain of the time it takes for proper brand building. So I think this may, as it says, help with the rebalance of digital spend, moving to a bit more brand building and brand awareness over time. Digital advertisers will need to be proactive in their marketing as they try to create a more positive brand identity for consumers as a whole, focusing less on specific targeting. And it's not just the loss of targeting. There still are ways to get to understand that deep audience segmentation and behavior, but it's really great to see that the ability for brand to take center stage again is important. The tip here is that Utilize customer research platforms to monitor your brand and to find out where your customers are. Expand your database, reduce the impact by gathering more first-party cookies through methods such as website subscriptions and customer surveys, and work on strengthening your SEO strategy to compensate for that loss in ad traffic. Diversify your marketing tactics. Due to Google's new policy, 23% of marketers plan to invest more in email marketing software. Another option is to exploit the use of AI tools to actually start predicting how people will respond to your content without actually, blowing the budget on campaigns that are doomed to fail, and implementing really robust marketing tactics outside of digital advertising can help fill those gaps left by this lack of third-party cookie opportunities and tracking, Kevin.
Craig, I also, just to reiterate, I think it's by having cookieless information, and yes, you have to sort of track the right data that you're actually getting, but essentially what it does do is afford you the opportunity to be better than your competitor and do it fairly. So you don't you're not just checking, okay, cool, we know these people are people we need to talk to, so we're just going to bombard them with traffic, kind of thing. And I think that whole Zuckerberg moment where he went to the High Court and had to explain himself about gathering all that information is a really big problem. So I think data, the future of understanding what data impacts have on who you speak to and what the marketing is like is really important.
And to add to that, Kevin, brands therefore need to be much more strategic and tactical in their approach, and that's important because those that are applying the right tactics and adopting the right strategies are the ones that are going to succeed. That's how you stay ahead of your competitors. Simple as that. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So moving to the final trend of this show, trend 5, brands tackle social media fatigue. Yes, and direct segue from last week's conversation. So brands are battling social media fatigue by encouraging healthy relationships with the digital worlds. Throughout the pandemic, Kevin, social media usage increased, as we know, as individuals are looking for ways to fill up their free time and connect with others. But as we learned last week, social media is definitely easing off in some countries. Gen Z is the most concerned about time spent on social media compared to other generations, and they're also more likely to use social media less than they did previously. In 2023, we'll likely see an even bigger increase in users adopting to avoid social media or actively monitoring their social media usage. Between January and October 2022, Kevin, 53% of emotion categorized mentions about wanting to leave social media were categorized as sad. So there's a big negativity around this particular proposition. Anger was the second most prevalent emotion at 27% of emotions categorized mentions. Many social media users state boredom is the largest factor for not deleting social platforms. And it seems that many individuals no longer find as much value from social media or are experiencing growth fatigue from extended use of the platform. The 3 tips for marketers here are: focus on keeping the attention of your audience. Brands who do this will obviously make the most of their limited time with their audience on social media. But to do so, brands will need to really provide true value via their content, make this the stronger impact on their audience. And equally, companies might actually need to switch up their social strategy to meet the target demographics where they're spending most of their time. Tip 2 here is shift your focus accounts for mental health within your social strategy. Focus on mental health. That's really great. Encourage consumers to have a healthy relationship with their social usage. This can help create a much safer space where they want to return to the platform. And equally, consumers are likely to associate your content with a positive message, which reflects well on your actual brand. And the final tip here, Kevin, is build strong relationships with your customers. So the more your audience is used to seeing your content, the more likely they're going to pay attention. So keep your messaging consistent across your social media channels, and obviously you're going to reap the benefits, Kevin.
Great, but I also think that, it's part of you still have a choice, right? So
Yes.
if part of the reason why you don't want to use social media is making you sad, it's like, well, what are you filling your content with? What are you subscribing to? You as the user, you still have a choice on that, right? But it also does mean that marketers need to make more feel good information, because people want to feel good. So if you're connecting in that way, there's a reason for them to keep coming back for more.
And if you really understand where they are and what mind state they're in, how do you shape that content and message to help them get into the right mind state as well?
Exactly. Yeah, I think so. Craig, so I know you shared the tips for marketers for each of the 5 trends, but as we're in today's show, what are some of the key takeaway points for the listeners of what we've chatted about?
Yeah, Kevin, so of those 5 trends, I've just pulled for what stands out for me is a single tip for each of the 5 points, just as the sort of summary reminder takeaway. So trend 1, scrappy content isn't bad content. The approach enables social media managers to take advantage of trends quickly to garner immersive engagement, all while showcasing a company's culture and sense of humor. Great for attracting employees. Really like that one. Trend 2, don't ignore virtual influencers. Virtual influencers receive a much higher engagement rate than real people. Make use of the space in the metaverse as well as the social media presence. This could be worth keeping an eye on for brands that are wanting to expand their digital reach. Trend 3, show off your brand values across social media. Brands that share ethical practices along their digital presence will definitely see increased benefits from wider consumer base to increase sales. Statistically, these brands are more likely to benefit than their unethical counterparts. Trend 4, expand your database, reduce the impact by gathering more first-party cookie through methods such as website subscription and customer surveys. Plus, work on strengthening your SEO strategy to compensate for the loss in ad traffic. And trend 5, build those strong relationships with your customers. The more your audience is used to seeing your content, the more likely they are to actually pay attention, and keep your messaging consistent across your social media channels to reap the benefits. Those are the key takeaways for today, Kevin.
Fantastic. Guys, if you want to catch that, you can check it out on the Lunchtime series on all major podcast channels and YouTube. So go and check out the Lunchtime series. Craig, quote for today in aim of leaving our audience with some really positive, good feeling stuff. Nelson Mandela said, I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's really great.
Mandela. Craig, thank you so much. Have a fantastic week, and I will chat to you soon.
You too. Thanks, Kevin. Take care.
Chat soon. Cheers. Bye.